it made me feel almost inadequate at times. It was really hard focusing on one area of my life. So I felt like if I was focusing too much on my children, then my work obviously would be neglected. Now, if I was focusing on my work and trying to get that done, then I felt like my children were going to be neglected. And thus, I've never experienced a pandemic either, just the unknown and how I was going to, help protect my kids as well as contribute to society. That weighed heavily on me as well. So just trying to figure that out, that was really hard, really, really hard because you wanted to be selfish and say like, again, we didn't know too much as to what was going on. You want to say, you know what, I'm not going to risk my life. I have children that are relying on me, but it's like, well, every little bit counts. So, there was always that call for a nurse to, volunteer, get out there and kind of help. But then you knew that you had your family to protect, and we didn't know, what it was airborne. And, at one point, they were telling us we didn't have to use masks. And then it was, yes, we do. And it was the whole, like, if I go out there, care for patients, coming back, am I going to bring back COVID to my family and then have to deal with that? So I felt oftentimes like I just couldn't win at all. I thought of the greater good. It felt like, you know what? I'll try. I'm going to try my best
Oh,
to help out there. And unfortunately, if it comes to a point where like that, I become like maybe a sacrifice to that, at least I know that I did my best, and hopefully my family would be okay in the end. So I think just making sure you're doing good, or what I feel like I was called to do, kind of it guided my decision. So if I felt like, you know what, me going out there helping, in a sense, there is monetary gain, right? So my family could use that in my absence. Like if I couldn't physically be there, at least they would have something. So it was just more of like, well, I can sit here, I can stay with the children, and we can just not suffer at that point, but it would be, very tight. Or I can go out there, do good, get paid, and that could help my children in another aspect where I'm lacking. So whether it was I was going to earn a little bit more so my son could get some tutoring, or I could purchase a playground because again, we couldn't go outside, we couldn't do anything, we had the backyard available. Maybe I could purchase something that would kind of help him as well as myself. Like, if I had that available to him, that would kind of help me balance when he's at home. At least he'll be distracted. So I kind of use that, like, I'm doing good in one sense. Yes, I might be lacking in another area, but maybe I can kind of make up for that. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I felt. Like, if I can just do the greater good, get paid, and maybe because mommy's absence for today, you can go on this beautiful playground that I've purchased with, going out there to help someone. For me, that kind of balanced it out.
personally, I have not processed the whole pandemic yet. Like I said, I not only was I working through the pandemic, I was pregnant to the pandemic, so everything was coming at me really fast and hard. In regards to our network, I do have a lot of my sister, my mother, my friends. A few of us are nurses, and their mother as well. So for me, I found a lot of it was more pivoting, thinking, is this worth continuing to be in as a profession? Should I go to another country? Will anything be better? So it was more of like, okay, for me, it was like a turning point. Do I still continue to want to be a nurse, or do I want to take some time off and further my education in something completely opposite? So for me personally, I never fully processed the whole pandemic as yet. So it was more just getting through it.
So I have a network of nurses. Like, there's nurses in the family, good friends that are nurses, any families that I call close, like I am close to. There is a nurse in that family. So um, just listening to stories and kind of just sharing our stories and our experiences, it kind of made it, I wouldn't say it made it easier, but you knew that you weren't the only one going through the foolishness. And so I find that it was great to have that support around, just to vent, just to, tell a story about some rude patient, how should I have responded, or this is the way I responded. Any ideas as how I shouldn't have responded? That was really helpful. Yeah, just and they understood, like, my nurses friends, they understand exactly. They're not there to judge me and say, well, maybe you should empathize a little bit more, or you're too harsh, or they understand exactly what I'm going through and my experiences, because they themselves have gone through the same thing. So that was really, really helpful with getting through the pandemic. It's still hard. I mean, you're still getting it left, right, and center. And I don't know if it's just geared towards nursing, or if it's geared towards, women. I don't know what it is, but we're still at the end of we're at the short end of the stick. And it doesn't see, I thought that maybe with the media and people now understanding our roles and how important it is, there would have been, a lot of change. But post pandemic, it has returned to the same nonsense. It's getting worse because of the shortage of staff. Now it's, again, people are just not getting the care that they want, and sometimes they're not getting the care that they need. And I understand their frustration, but we're human. Like, there's only so much that we can do. So I think with that, it's very scary to think of what nursing or the healthcare system is going to look like in the next 5 to 10 years, given the fact that I think through the pandemic, people really started prioritizing what was important to them and whether or not continuing in this profession was actually worth it. And if it was worth it, you kind of step back. In my opinion, that's what I've seen, is you have now said, you know what? Nah, I'm not going to work 6 shifts in a row. It's not worth it. My working conditions it's become unbearable at times. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to take some time for myself. If I'm feeling ill, I'm not going to push myself. I think that's where we're at right now in terms of nurses. And that's why you can see these mass exodus happening, where it's not worth it. You cannot pay a nurse enough to put up with foolishness. It's not just their patients, because you can empathize. I think that all nurses will sit here and say, you know what? I empathize with you. I understand. That's what we're nurses. We get it. We understand. But am I going to tolerate that? Nope. No, thank you.
Can I just add that many organizations, their system and processes compound the situation. And I think for most of us are hopeful that they actually do change the way they conduct essentially business. Because yes, we have the patient demand, and for most of us, okay, that's something we're there to care for patients. That's why we're nurses, and we have empathy, and we can formulate therapeutic relationships. But on top of that, we have an organization who asks us to do 10 million things, and even them, they're not cognizant enough to know that in a 12-hour, an 8-hour, if you were supposed to do statistics and analytics, it's impossible for us to complete these things and do them well on top of even completing them. So that is where I find myself even more frustrated, because yeah, we deal with the public and we're here to care, and we understand their frustrations, but it's almost as no one takes in account that although we're nurses, we're still human beings. We still have emotions, and we still can get burnt out, even though people say, oh, you're being paid to care. And it's like, yes, but we don't get respite, because a lot of nurses, I'm pretty sure, Claudette, will be asked to stay overtime. Can you do the extra 2 hours? Can you do 4 hours? Can you come in on your days off? It's this circle or the cycle that sort of never ends. Like everyone has mentioned, my network is amongst my colleagues too. We're able to talk about what's going on dental life ourselves. I'm not aware if there is a professional organization or there's something else available. As I said, I'm not aware. I don't want to say there isn't. But yeah, we just have been venting amongst ourselves, and making the best of a bad situation. Like when you come in, like what she was mentioning, how the only solution is, yeah, can you work extra? Can you stay back? Can you come in another day? This is all we say as well. So we are totally burnt out. And in terms of patience, I don't have patience for the crop that some patients. I don't want to take it, to be honest. Gone are the days I would, have more tolerance to that. But now I'm like, oh, I can't, right? Because you give so much and get so little. And even in terms of management and stuff, you don't even get the support because some of them do not have a nursing background. So they can't even relate. They don't even understand the stress that you go through, right? Even to get sympathy from your manager to say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I know you were short." No, they will still be on the side of the patient, still trying to put up a good front. And I remember laughing with my colleague once because we just left a meeting, a staff meeting, and the manager was saying to us, just don't tell the patient, you're short staff, just go do your thing. And the moment we came out of the meeting, we went in and we said, listen, we are short staffed. We we can't do this. Da, 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 da. So I don't know if it got back to her, but we haven't changed. We just, tell them we're short staffed. Yes, they might not like it. Yes, they carry on. But we do our best, right? And as I said, maybe there are organizations out there to support nursing. I'm not aware of it, and I haven't heard anyone speak of it. So clearly, it's nothing that is, publicized or so. But yeah, we are going through a hard time, and like most of you say, we are ready to leave the profession anytime. It's really bad. I don't know what the future will look like for nursing.
By the government saying that, they were doing everything they could to ensure that the public would have access to healthcare. On the ground, we knew that that wasn't feasible because we didn't even have the resources that we needed to care for the capacity that we currently had. So sometimes you would wish that, I'm not saying whether even if nurses had been able to voice that reality, whether it would have rung through into, into the conversations that were happening in public. But I think that maybe if we had a little bit more media coverage in terms of media actually sort of going in, I know it wouldn't have been safe, but just sort of showing people what nurses had to endure, what even a COVID patient would look like in terms of being ventilated, being on a number of strips, maybe needing hemodialysis. If the public had that sort of information, I think maybe there would have been more people wouldn't have been as COVID naive as I observed during the pandemic. There are two things. One, as I said, it's a commitment to God that I got placed in this profession, and I really want to see it through. And the second thing is that I need a paycheck. But the paycheck is not as important, or it is important, but the first reason is the overriding reason why I think I sort of go through this, and I'll tell you why. So for example, I have my master's. I've had it for about 6 years now. And when COVID started and we were going through all these awful times, a lot of my colleagues said, what are you still doing here? Like, you have your master's, you could actually leave the bedside and do something else. And I said, yes, I know that, but my passion is nursing at the bedside. Yes, I have my master's, and I'm hoping that whatever I learned from it, I could sort of incorporate into my practice to improve the care that I'm giving. But I didn't do my master's to get away from the bedside. The reason for doing my master's is to improve patient care. And I think the best way to do that is being at the bedside, as opposed to writing policies or doing or teaching or something else. So again, my devotion to what God has called me to do is the reason why I still do what I do, and that's helping me be resilient in these frustrating circumstances.
I have said before, just staying the course and just being true to your calling. At least that was one of that's what kept me resilient. Just staying true to my conviction of doing the right thing and doing your best to help others. Just especially being in this profession, you meet people at their lowest point in life, right? They, they're at rock bottom. They're like everything you do matters, and they will take note, right? Because you got them at their most vulnerable point. And so, in spite of what was going on, the patient truly did not know, sometimes weren't aware of what nurses were facing, or and clearly it wasn't their fault, right? So you just tried to do your best and do your best. And it's sad. It's really unfortunate that the patients didn't even get the care that they truly even deserve, again, because of lack of staff, lack of this, lack of that. So they too got the worst of it. But as I said, just being true to your convictions and your call. And yes, I still love nursing. I still love what I do. And maybe all this trial and all that we have been through, it can either make you or break you. And I think it has made a lot of us, and some of course just less because they're over it.